This is Jeremy Grant, and you're listening to The Briefcase with Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. Episode 163 of The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I am Casey Holdahl, and Damian Lillard has returned to Portland, as you certainly well know by now, but it is now official. Damian Lillard signing as a free agent with the Portland Trail Blazers after being waived by the Milwaukee Bucks, or at least a few weeks after being waived by the Milwaukee Bucks. News broke a few days ago. Obviously, we typically need to wait until it becomes official here on Trailblazers.com to talk about things, but now that it is, we can. Very happy to have Dame back. Going to talk about Dame returning to Portland and kind of the idea around it, and it's really about the basketball. It's not necessarily about running back old times or nostalgia or anything like that. It is a smart basketball move that the Portland Trail Blazers made as they continue to build out their roster to get to the ultimate goal that this team has for themselves. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about young Hansen's run at the Las Vegas Summer League, which is now over, on this edition of The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I'd say at this point in time, it's been a pretty good offseason in Rip City. I think between the play of young Hansen, the trade to acquire Jrue Holiday, and now Damian Lillard making his return to Portland as a free agent. A lot of things for fans in Portland to be excited about, and obviously just the improvement that the team has made throughout the last couple seasons. A lot of reasons for optimism in Portland, and the addition of Damian Lillard to this roster, absolutely one of those reasons. Granted, as Dame rehabs his Achilles, very unlikely I think that he plays next season, but getting Damian Lillard on reportedly a basically mid-level for reportedly 3 years, I think the last year player option, and I believe he has a no trade clause as well. At least that's what's been reported, which makes a lot of sense. A very smart deal, I feel like, for the Trailblazers, a very smart deal for Damian, and a way to bring in a very talented player who still has a lot left in the tank, with a bit of a long runway, obviously, because as I mentioned, the Achilles, I mean, I guess there's always a possibility he plays towards the end of the 2025-26 season. I think that's probably a little unlikely, particularly with kind of the way things went at the end of the season for Dame. But, who's to say how that ends up playing out? But either way, to add a player of Dame's talent, put aside the obviously how important he is in Portland's community, to have a player as talented as Dame with his skill set joining this team that is already really starting to make strides in terms of their competitiveness and the build and the kind of the ethos of the team and the culture they're building under Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups. To add a guy like Dame to that mix, I think makes a ton of basketball sense. I think it's a great move for Dame. It's a great move for the Trailblazers, and I know that fans are excited about it as well, as you should be. So let's go ahead and just get to the press release. 9-time All-Star selection and a 7-time All-NBA selection. Damian Lillard returns to Portland, where he spent his first 11 seasons of a storied career after being named an All-Star during each of his 2 seasons in Milwaukee, appearing in 131 games, All-Starts, and averaging 24.6 points, 7 assists, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.1 steals in 35 minutes per game. Again, that's what Dame averaged in Milwaukee. And it kind of feels like there's this notion that like Dame's time in Milwaukee, I mean, I don't think it turned out as well as anyone would have liked. Obviously they weren't able to kind of put it together, guys being injured at the wrong time, but like his actual numbers that he put up, what I just mentioned there, 44% shooting from the field, 37% shooting from three, 25.2 points per game, nearly 7 assists, 4.2 rebounds, and a steal in 36 minutes. Those are great numbers for any starting point guard in the NBA. And so to add a guy like that to Portland's roster, again, it's going to be another season from now, or at least a while from now before Dame plays. But to add a player of that caliber, of that talent to this roster, I think, again, it is a very smart move. Among the all-time franchise leaders, Lillard ranks first in points at 19,376 points per game. Also at points per game at 25.2 points per game, three-pointers made 2,387, free throws made 4,427, and free throw percentage at 85.9%. He's second in field goals made at 6,281, and assists at 5,151, third in games played at 769 games, and minutes per game at 36.3 minutes per game, fourth in assists per game at 6.7 per game, and sixth in triple doubles, 3, which he's tied with multiple players, and steals, 732 steals for Dame. And he will now be able to add to those totals to round out his Trailblazers career and potentially even his NBA career. I would not at all be surprised if Dame's run with Portland is kind of how he goes off into the end of his career. Though again, who's to say how things play? I think the way that Dame plays is the style of play that could go well on into the future. But either way, a fantastic thing to get Damian Lillard back on this team. Obviously, I think, a lot of reasons why both sides decided to go in a different direction, and I think both valid reasons. But I also think too now both teams, or the team and Dame, both in a place where that reunion I think makes a lot of sense for both sides for multiple different reasons. This is where Dame made his name. This is where his story started, and I'm not saying this is where his story will end, but at least he gets to continue that story on now in Portland. And again, it's exciting time too because like it's not about like, well, we're getting Dame back and now we're gonna run it back and kind of do the same things we did under Dame. What's great about it is now the team that Dame is joining is one of the better teams, if not the best Trailblazer team that Dame will have ever been on. And so I think, I think a lot of the lament for fans, and I think probably for the organization as well, was that, we had this great player in Damian Lillard, and with what we were able to put together, had a lot of success, but just not the level of success that we hoped we could have had with a caliber of player like Dame. Now you get to add his caliber of player back into the fold with a roster that is very well built out, is very well constructed. Chauncey and Joe have done a fantastic job of getting this team to where they want it, and I think obviously Joe's staff as well. you know, I, there's been a lot of talk about, the trade that sent Dame to Milwaukee and what the Blaze, and now the Dame has come back from Milwaukee, kind of that whole entire transaction really being one of the better NBA transactions that you're going to see. I think maybe even Brian Windhorst mentioned that it's one of the interesting, or maybe one of the best kind of 2 year transaction periods for a player, or at least for kind of one long transaction as he's ever seen. And so, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about that. And some of those have to do with just kind of the community element and how important Dame is to this community, and the place that he holds in Rip City. But the I think the overarching part of it is really about the basketball piece, and what Dame can do to help this team both on the court and then the locker room, and from a leadership perspective and from a mentorship perspective. I think those are obviously really good things. This is about a team going forward. This is not about looking back and kind of reminiscing about the great times we had with Dame, and we're definitely will do some of that. And there's no reason to not be very excited and happy about kind of the way that Dame's career in Portland played out the first iteration. But this is really about kind of going forward and what it's going to mean for this team going forward. And I think for Dame, that it's the same way. It's like if this team was kind of in the same place it was when Dame left, I don't think he's coming back here. Like I think that probably would be a different decision for him. But seeing how much strides this team has made, and the way that the team has been built, and what Joe and his staff have been able to do in terms of adding talent, and really kind of balancing the roster, I think there's a whole lot of reasons to be really excited about what Damian Lillard does for this team. And again, and some of that is about kind of like having Dame back, and how much, again, he's a part of the community and how important he is to the people in this community. But the bigger part of it is just about the actual basketball piece, and how important that is to have a caliber of Damian Lillard's play added to a team that is already really starting to mature and get better as the years have gone on, and as the seasons are going to have gone on. And last season, I think we saw this team really make some significant strides. And I think you're going to see that again this upcoming season. And then you're going to be able to add a guy like Damian Lillard to the fold, who, once he's able to play, obviously makes you a much better team. But I think, the way that he's going to be able to work with these young guys and provide leadership, along with guys like Drew Holiday, along with guys like Denny Avdia, I think that's something that, I think Chauncey kind of has talked about, having a young team, and needing there to be kind of leaders on the team, because you can only do so much as a coach. You really have to have the guys in the locker room and on the floor that are kind of leading that discussion. And now you have a bunch of guys on this team that can do that, and who are at varying points in their careers, and have had varying degrees of success in their careers. And so to add a guy like Dame to that calculation, I think just, again, take out kind of the Damian Lillard and the place he inhabits in this community piece. That's just really smart basketball. It's great for your locker room. It's great for the team. And I think that's that's what both the organization and Dame are seeing, is not like the idea like, oh, we're getting the old band back together to do a greatest hits tour. We're putting together a team and adding a very good player to this team that's going to make us better than what we were the first time around. And I think that's a real reason for excitement here in Portland. So really all the way around, just a really smart deal. Again, I think for everyone involved. I mean, you add a player who is very talented. You add a player who has shown himself to be one of the NBA's great leaders to a team that already has leadership on it as well. So it's not like it's like one guy who's kind of saying things and kind of running the show. You have a broad group now of guys who in that locker room have had success and know what it takes to be successful in the NBA. So you add a guy in Dame to that. Obviously, the way he plays is something any team could use, and the clutch gene that Dame has, and is something that very few players can boast. And I think you add that to your team, and that's a very good thing. Obviously, having the range to pull defenses away from the basket is incredibly important. And I think as we've seen, like the players that the Blazers have now, from Denny to Monty, to Shaden, to Scoot, to Drew, those guys are all going to benefit from having a guy in Damian Lillard that can really stretch defenses out. I think, from the community piece as well, to have a guy who knows what Rip City is about and what Portland is about, and being able to impart that on his teammates and kind of let them understand what it means to be a Portland Trailblazer, I think is incredibly important. And I think too, just to have another guy on your roster you feel very confident can go out and be a difference maker for you on a team that you already feel like you've got a number of those guys who are stepping into those roles. I think it's just it's an unqualified success, and to be able to do it at a price that I think is very reasonable and not at all what I would have necessarily expected that you would be able to get Damian Lillard for is, I mean, again, it's great. And again, granted, very unlikely that he plays significant minutes this year, if at all, but does that really matter going forward? That I think that allows the team to improve this year and maybe even kind of make some of their own hay, and then being able to add Dame to a team that is already getting better and is already kind of gone through some of those battles on their own, and adding a guy into that situation that is an arch competitor and incredibly talented and plays a style of play that really functions in the NBA. And you've got also guys on the roster who can, make up for some of the deficiencies that he might have in his game as well. Like, again, I just think it makes a whole lot of sense for everyone. I think it's really great that it's happened. I know that Dame is happy about it. I know the organization is ecstatic about it. And it's been really cool to see the response too. And I mean, I know sometimes people are going to focus on kind of the what few little negative responses there have been, but I feel like by and large, like both nationally and locally, just a real excitement about Dame returning. And again, not just because it's like, oh, we love Dame, we're glad he's going to be back, but just understanding it like, hey, like this team is in a much better space now than they were when Dame left. And this team can probably do some things with the addition of Damian Lillard that they would not have been able to do if we weren't able to sign him. So again, it's going to be a real fun year. And when Dame is able to get back out there, it's really going to be exciting. Again, I just think there's a whole lot of reasons to be optimistic about where the Trailblazers are going right now. It's like it seems to me like there's a real plan and a real growth arc that the team is on. And I think you add the young talent in Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen, and to the roster that again you've got a good mix of vets and young players, and guys who are vets and still improving, and guys who are vets who now or maybe have more cause to kind of be out there on a regular basis. I think is again, I just think it's a really good thing, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out. But I think initially we're going to hear from Dame here on Monday, as well as from the organization, and that'll be cool to kind of just get a lay of the land about their opinions on it. And I've had some conversations as well, and they've again, it just seems like everyone is really on the same page and has realistic expectations and the right motivations. Again, I just keep saying that because, I think maybe from the outside you look at it and be like, oh, they're getting Dame back because, he's such an important part of of Portland's history, and that is absolutely true. He is an important part of this organization's history. But again, it's about basketball, and it's about the arc that this team was already on without Dame, and how Dame can help this team get to that next level once he's able to rejoin the team and have an impact on the court. He's already going to have an impact in the locker room once he's able to do both. I think you really start to get excited about what we're going to see out of this Trailblazer team going forward. So a great day, a great week for the Trailblazers, a great offseason thus far for the Trailblazers. I think they're, again, like, as far as kind of what you to go from the draft lottery and being kind of bummed out about kind of where you ended up in the lottery and not getting a chance to get one of those top two or three picks to where we're at now. I think you feel really good about how this offseason has played out for the Trailblazers. I think it's been an unqualified success again, and to go from people being like, boy, we lost games and then we didn't even really get that good of a pick, to we got young Hansen and some draft capital as well, some future first round picks. Oh, and we got Drew Holiday as well, a certified all-star and a absolute Hall of Famer. And then Young's play at Summer League and being like, boy, maybe this guy is going to be able to contribute sooner than we thought. To, oh yeah, and by the way, Damian Lillard's going to come back on a very team friendly deal, and he is going to be rejoining the organization, which is great from a on court perspective and a community perspective. I'd say those are all really good things for the Portland Trail Blazers, really good things for the organization, really good things for the fans, and a lot of reason to just be very excited about what's next and to be enthusiastic about this upcoming season and just seeing how it comes together, where they've made the most strides, where there might still need to be things that are addressed. Oh yeah, and by the way, we're also going to be able to add Dame to that sooner rather than later. So congratulations, Rip City. Congratulations to all of us. Way to go, Joe. Way to go, Chauncey. Way to go, Dame. Way to go, Dame's representation. Everyone working together, getting this thing done, figuring it out, letting bygones be bygones if there were any bygones that needed to be bygone. And now we're back in the saddle. So a very good offseason thus far for the Trailblazers, and a really good day for Rip City. Well, even though Dame had made his offseason home in Portland anyways, the fact that he's back now maybe gives him a chance to finally get out to the Oregon coast. And on the way to the coast, might as well stop by Spirit Mountain Casino, where you can get an unforgettable experience at the Spirit Mountain Casino Top Golf Swing Suite. Enjoy your favorite virtual games on an immersive big screen, now with discounted midday rates. Grab your 5 friends and book your bay now at Spirit Mountain Casino on Highway 18 in Grand Ronde. Elevate your game. And finally, I'll do a bit of a wrap up of the Las Vegas Summer League later on next week once it is completed. But it does sound like Young Hansen will not play in the Trailblazers' 5th and final game at the Las Vegas Summer League. So his Summer League is over. I was actually a little surprised he played in the 4th game, considering how well he's played. Usually the way it goes at Summer League, you play 2 or 3 games, and particularly now with the tournament, once your tournament chances are gone, which they were before Portland's 4th game, at that point in time, a lot of times teams will start sitting players, particularly guys who have played well throughout Summer League, as Hansen has. He did end up playing in that 4th game, which I thought was great, had another really good performance in that win for the Trailblazers. But now in that 5th game, the final consolation game for the Trailblazers at the Las Vegas Summer League, which is on Saturday. You might actually be watching this right now after that game happens. So let's go ahead and get to some of Young's stats from the Las Vegas Summer League. Averaged 10.8 points on 46% shooting from the field, 33% shooting from 3, and 88% shooting from the free throw line. Also averaged 5 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, which ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 4th or 5th in the Las Vegas Summer League, 3.8 assists as well in 24.5 minutes. I think all told, an incredibly successful Summer League for Young Hansen. I think you saw everything out of Hansen you wanted to see. I think, again, for those of us, which I think is basically 99.9% of the Trailblazer fans out there, and those covering the team, I should say, as well, didn't really know what to expect out of Hansen going into Summer League. We knew what we had heard from the team in between when he was drafted and when Summer League practices started. But, you don't know exactly what that means until you actually see it on the court. Las Vegas Summer League, generally not a great place for big men to go out and show what they can do. But the way that Hansen plays, I think really allowed him to have success at the Summer League, and really just the way he carried himself. He wasn't ever scared, but he wasn't ever like boastful. Just from the way that he played to the way he interacted with his teammates to the way that he dealt with the media throng. And that was actually one of the fun things for myself at Summer League is just being introduced to a whole bunch of international media and getting to kind of talk and learn about their experiences and what they're excited about and just bringing different energy to some of those media availabilities. Just a really great 2025 Las Vegas Summer League for Hansen, up and down, on the court, off the court. Saw everything you wanted to see out of him. Obviously, a ton of highlights. The passing is ridiculous. I think his rebounding improved as the summer league went on as well. I know that was kind of one of the main issues that people had about Hansen's numbers were like, why isn't he rebounding more? And I think when you watch the games, you see that he focuses more on boxing out his man and letting his teammates get the rebound than he is about getting the rebound himself. I think that's maybe something that as the summer league went on, they were probably like, hey, why don't you just go up and try to get that same way with his finishing? I think they really obviously they love his ability to finish with kind of style and finesse at the rim, but they also want him to be a little more aggressive in that regard as well. We saw more of that as summer league went on. I think that's one of the parts too is the coachability. I think we saw out of Hansen every time there was something they're like, hey, we'd like you to try this, he went out and was able to do it. And that's even with a language barrier and with, him probably needing to get up to speed with some of the fitness and the speed of the NBA games. So just a again, I think all I know all of my expectations I had for Hansen going into summer league vastly exceeded. I think I had mentioned on one of the first summer league editions that I felt like if he just looked like he belonged, if he just didn't look out of place, and if he got one or two kind of highlight passes, then I would say that was a successful summer league for Hansen. He did that in the first quarter of the first game. And so for him to play as well as he did and show what he did and again, like the way that he carried himself and conducted himself on the court, off the court, with the media, with his teammates, with his new coaches, I think just a completely unqualified success of a summer league. One of the better summer leagues that I can remember. It reminds me of Jabari Walker's summer league a few years back, in which you didn't really have a whole lot of expectations, didn't really know what to expect. Comes out and looks like one of the best players at summer league, earned himself a contract. Obviously, Hansen in a little bit of a different situation because he's a first round pick, but I think going from I think probably a lot of people thought after he was drafted, like, well, this guy's kind of a project. And, I think it's, once you get into the meat of the NBA season, there's going to be some hard times and there's going to be some things he's going to have to get used to. And there's going to be stumbles and struggles as every rookie is going to encounter. But to go from the expectations, I feel like maybe after he got drafted, which was like, yeah, this guy's maybe a few years away, to the way he played at Summer League and being like, is this guy is he going to be in the rotation next year? Because the way that he's playing right now, maybe would lead one to believe that is going to be on the horizon. To go from that extreme to the other, I think really, again, for me, just shows how well he performed and was really just kind of a delight to watch and to be around. And I think again, it adds a really interesting dynamic to this team going into next season. And it does sound like he's going to play for China at the Asia Cup, which starts, I think August 4th, so not long from now in Saudi Arabia. So a chance to kind of see how he looks with his national team and see more minutes for him out there, which is also probably another reason why. I mean, he doesn't need to play more at Summer League anyways, but I'm sure at this point it's like, hey, this guy has already did a lot of workouts. Obviously, had Summer League practices. Ended up playing 4 games. He's going to play some more games with the Chinese national team. Does he really need to play in a fifth and final game at the Las Vegas Summer League? And generally, like first round picks don't play all the games at Summer League anyways. And then, you see Derek Queen get injured in the game versus the Trailblazers, having surgery. He's going to be out for 12 weeks. I'm not saying that factored into the Trailblazers decision. It didn't, but just the notion that like, hey, when you're a rookie and you kind of show that you belong and you did what you needed to do, you don't need to spend every last minute playing every single game at the Las Vegas Summer League, particularly once you get to the fifth and final game, this consolation games, things can get a little bit funky, a little bit loose. You got guys who are playing hard, and you don't want to fault them for playing hard, but who are also maybe playing a little too hard and going a little too hard for a fifth Summer League game. Why put a guy in a situation where he could conceivably even have any chance of anything bad happening in a situation like that? So I think it's really smart to call it a summer league for young Hansen because he really did everything you needed him to do and then some at summer league to really feel confident about where he's going to be at going into training camp for the 2025-26 season, which is going to be incredibly exciting for this team. You know, a lot of the guys obviously coming back from last year, but some new additions as well. I think a whole lot of reason for optimism, a whole lot of reasons to be excited about this team going into training camp and into the 2025-26 season. And that's going to do it for this edition of The Briefcase. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, we'll be back early next week. I'm guessing after Dame is reintroduced at the press conference, 6 o'clock on Monday. We'll be streaming that on trailblazers.com and on our social channels as well. So be on the lookout for that. Should be a good time. Should be interesting to hear what Dame has to say. Should be interesting to hear what both Chauncey and Joe have to say about Dame's return. And also maybe we'll even get to ask him a few questions about Hansen and the way he's played at Summer League as well, because I'm sure some of you would really be interested in that as well. Also, shout out to all my new Chinese followers. Follow me on Red Note. I'm posting some stuff on there that I don't post on my Instagram or Twitter account. So if you want some of the goods, check me out on Red Note. I don't even know what my account is there because I don't even know half of the stuff that's going on and I can only read the parts that are translated. But either way, putting some stuff on there, including clips of this show, which you can also get on the social channels. Also subscribe to the Trailblazers podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. That's going to do it for me. We'll talk to you very soon. I am Casey Holdahl. Go Blazers. Welcome back, Dave.